As Andrea said, this fall we're preaching this sermon series called This Is Us, after the television show. This Is Us, 11 distinctive characteristics of Kenilworth Union Church. And on Stewardship Sunday, of course, I have to use the adjective generous to describe Kenilworth Union Church. And to look at this with you, I am going to look at one of the most successful stewardship sermons in the history of the world. Moses gives it to the Hebrews as they're traveling from slavery in Egypt to promise in Canaan, and they want to build a tabernacle, a tent of meeting for God. Then all the congregation withdrew from the presence of Moses, and they came, everyone whose heart was stirred, everyone whose spirit was willing, and brought the Lord's offering to be used for the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. So they came, both men and women, all who were of willing heart, and brought brooches, earrings, signet rings, and pendants, all sorts of gold objects, everyone bringing an offering to the Lord. And everyone who possessed blue or purple or crimson yarn or fine linen or goat's hair or tanned ram skins or fine leather brought them. Everyone who could make an offering of silver or bronze bought it to the Lord's offering. Everyone who possessed acacia wood made use of it for the work. All the Israelite men and women whose hearts made them willing to bring anything for the work of the Lord brought it as a free will offering, so that the artisans who were working on the tabernacle had to tell the people to quit bringing things. Moses had to tell them to stop. The people had to be restrained from giving, for what they had already brought was more than enough to do all the work. Pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our rock and our redeemer. Amen. So on their journey from slavery in Egypt to promise in Canaan, which will, as it turns out, last 40 years, the Hebrews decide that they need a traveling church for God to live in along the way. This was a huge deal for the ancient Hebrews. The book of Exodus spends 10 chapters, or 8,000 words, or 12 single-space typed pages to describe every detail of the tabernacle in minute, monotonous, trivial detail. It might surprise you to learn, then, that it was actually a modest domicile for the creator of all the stars and worlds. It measured about 45 feet by 15 feet, or just a little bit larger than one of those snappy six-person tents you can get from L.L. Bean for $499. So Moses puts out the word that we're going to build this thing, whatever's at hand, which can't be much for a bunch of wandering, dusty nomads marooned in the desert, except that, remember, that the Hebrews left Egypt in such a hurry because Pharaoh didn't want them. He wanted them to leave, so he loaded them down with a rich plunder of gold, coin, jewelry, and purple yarn. A plunder so rich that he instantly regretted giving it away, so he chases down the Hebrews in the desert with his chariots, to disastrous result in the churning waters of the miraculously but briefly parted Red Sea. So Moses gives this stewardship sermon. We need your stuff. And the response of the people is overwhelming. The people were all stirred, says the Bible, so that everybody and her sister-in-law brings gold, coin, jewelry, purple yarn, linen, leather fabrics, silver tea sets, and the family furniture to the artisans who are working on the tabernacle. They have so much stuff they can't even get their work done. They say, stop. The Bible tells us that the people had to be restrained from giving. They had to end their stewardship campaign prematurely because they had too much stuff. The people had to be restrained from giving. I'm actually not going to do that with you today, restrain you from giving. But I know that this congregation is very generous because this past year I've watched you bring the modern equivalent of gold coin, jewelry, and yarn to this church. The modern equivalent, of course, being cash checks and stock transactions. You couldn't find John Sharp all year because he was working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. here at the church. He wasn't supervising construction. He was at the computer processing stock transactions. For all the stuff, you got it. You got us. And finally, Peter Schaff and Meg Revord and John Sharp had to say, enough, stop, we have enough. Thank you. But we can't stop now, right? This is indeed a generous congregation. Generosity is a sine qua non, without which not a precondition for every excellent congregation. Now, you can have an excellent congregation without many of the distinctive characteristics we've been talking about this fall. You can have an excellent congregation without being multi-denominational. You can have an excellent congregation without being ecumenical. You can have an excellent congregation without being traditional. But you cannot have an excellent congregation without generosity. That's the fundament. That's the foundation. I want to briefly explain what I think of as an excellent congregation. This is oversimplifying a little bit, but 3 things. An excellent congregation shapes winsome, faithful, virtuous disciples, has minimal internal dysfunction and drama, and has an outsized impact on the surrounding community. Beautiful disciples, minimal drama, maximal impact. An excellent congregation is to the surrounding community what your carburetor is to your car. Without it, it doesn't go. Without excellent congregations in the community stalls. There are about 380,000 Christian congregations in the United States just now. Over half of them have fewer than 60 worship attenders on a Sunday morning. Now, those smaller congregations are precious and beloved, and we can't do without them, but they do not have the impact on society that a church like this has. I'm not unbiased in this matter, but I think this is an excellent congregation. Maybe in the top 10% of all the mainline churches in the land. And to reach that level of excellence, you need many good things, but primarily 2. You need ample human resources and ample financial resources. As to human resources, you know this. An organization like ours can't function without scores of quality people who have learned superior leadership skills elsewhere and previously, at university or at business or in the military or in the Girl Scouts or in the Boy Scouts or maybe at other churches. They've learned these skills and they bring them to us. I've been here for 12 years and I've served with 7 board presidents. And I've told you before, these 7 board presidents are my 1927 Yankees. This is a murderer's row of board presidents. Not a 200 batting average among them. To update the metaphor, here are my Shohei Ohtanis. So that's human resources. About financial resources. Do you know why you like this staff so much? Do you know why you're so well served by this staff? It's because you pay us fairly. There's more to it than that, but it's at least that. You pay us fairly. It is essential that this church attract the top talent in the land. A quality staff begins with generosity. A couple of years ago, somebody gave this church $750,000 to underwrite the music program. The income on that endowment pays the salaries of 8 of the finest voices in Chicagoland. 8! Who deserves that? They're not only quality voices, they're quality human beings. Who deserves that? This music program begins with generosity. Now, you don't have to give us $750,000. We'll take it if you got it, but you don't have to give that to us. But maybe you can give us $4,120. As Andrea pointed out, that's the average gift last year to this church, $4,120. Now, if you are on Social Security or driving for Uber, you won't be able to give us that. But many of you can. Andrea pointed out, we need $2.2 million. Her expectation is 100%. Mine is more modest. I would love to get 600 of the roughly 900 families in this church to give a gift of about $4,000 to the church this coming year. If we can get that, we can do everything God is calling us to do in this place. I know it's out there, right? The median household income of the 3 towns we primarily come from is well over $200,000 a year. 2.5 times the national average. It's out there. And an institution like this needs loyalty and support, especially in a time of transition. Most of you give to this church because you feel well served by it, in general. You feel cared for pastorally, your children are educated, the worship services are vital. A few of you, though, give because you like me. There's one guy in this church who liked me so much he gave me an embarrassing amount of money. I said, Mr. Jones, you can't give this much money to the church. Well, no, I didn't say that, but I thought it. He had to be restrained from giving. I love you for that personal loyalty, but now it's time for you to transfer that loyalty to my successor. I hope you will platform her or him for excellence and success and faithfulness into the future. Beautiful future. You're killing it, right? You were here last week. You saw all those new members in that baptism. You heard the transcendent music. You're killing it. Help my successor continue all of that. In 2010, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates started something they called the Giving Pledge. The purpose of the Giving Pledge is to encourage the world's wealthiest people to give away at least half of their wealth, either before they die or through their estate. So Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Mackenzie Scott, George Lucas have all signed, many more have all signed the Giving Pledge. $600 billion has been pledged so far. So Warren Buffett and Bill Gates and Bill's ex-wife Melinda traveled the world trying to convince the world's billionaires, millionaires, to give away half of what they have. A few years ago, they traveled to China, where they met a young man, 42 at the time, who'd made $440 million in the recycling industry. And he decided to sign the Giving Pledge. And when somebody asked him why he did that, he said, wealth is like water. If you have a cup, you have to take care of yourself. If you have a barrel, you have to take care of your family. But if you have a river, you can take care of everybody. Some of you have just a cup. Take care of yourself. Some of you have a barrel. Take care of your family. Many of us, most of us, have a river. So we will share with everybody, a river whose streams make glad the city of God.